Hello and welcome to NHL Best Bets. Yesterday we had again good games in different places, and let's go first through our picks from last night. We picked Nashville Detroit as under. Game went pretty much like predicted. It was 0-0 after two periods, and Nashville then at the end 1-2-0. Detroit couldn't score. Pekkarinen played pretty well, even though there were only 24 shots against him. Then Chicago Columbus also was discussed to be a tight game between good goalies. It was a tight game, but goalies were not maybe as great as expected. Kevin Lankinen made a few game savers during overtime, and then Chicago won this coin flip now towards us 6-5. Tommy, any comments for these games?
Yeah, the first game in Detroit went exactly as we expected. Both teams came in through the defense. Both teams had been struggling a lot, so they were back to basics, played really tight defensive game for the first two periods of the game. Then Nashville got the away goal, but it was challenged and whistled off. So in the third one, they then scored two power play goals and finished the game 0-2. Could have been 0-0 for all that matters. It was such a defensive battle from both teams that a little bit maybe hard done by for Detroit team that fought really admirably but couldn't get anything out of the game. So it was a good under for us for sure. And then in Columbus, not exactly a game we predicted. I was questioning a bit because the simulation showed that it's going to be an over game, but once again the simulations were correct in this case, and there was a lot of goals scored. Of course, the power play of Columbus especially was impressive. Neither of the goaltenders did play as well as they can, but also defensively not so great effort from either team. Of course, when you score 5 goals, there's something a bit wrong. So unhappy coaches there for sure, but we're happy for Chicago that they managed to get the win after failing. They did lead by 2 goals already early on, but then it looked like Columbus might take it, and then it turned again. So this time, a very good shootout win for our team and our pick.
Yeah, and I think simulations were pretty correct in other games as well. We had some of these big underdogs there, like we discussed yesterday. Ottawa took care of business in against Montreal in a shootout, tight game, but 5-4 at the end, and then Buffalo won New Jersey on the road 4-1. A roller coaster team was this time on top level of their ride.
Yeah, like we discussed, a lot of pretty difficult games to predict, but this time the system was correct. Only one game was missed, so the simulations had small value for Vancouver at home against Edmonton, but also a favorite Edmonton won that, so money line was correct in that case as well. So in both categories, side value and money line, we got only one wrong in last night's game. So pretty good record and a lot of profit from both categories.
Yeah, and like we discussed, Pittsburgh was recovering from the Sidney Crosby's 1,000-game parties, and they during the overtime took care of the Washington on the road. So that was, I think, pretty predicted game, hard-fought game. And even though Pittsburgh won the shots 37-22, it was on overtime Kasperi Kapanen goal that made difference.
Yeah, a very even game, a very good quality game compared to some of the other games that these two teams have played this season. It was all very even, and a good win for the Penguins. They probably needed it a bit more than Capitals after a little bit lackluster effort in the last game.
Yep. If we take a close look of the last week of the results, what we've had both from the picks and then from the simulations, picks we have done 14, 2 per day, and results have been pretty good. If you would bet $100 for every pick that we presented here in these videos, you would end up having $791 profit in your pocket. How about then simulations when we take a bigger size of the sample and bet maybe every game 3 times in different markets, side value, then pure winner and totals? What kind of numbers simulations have generated?
For the last week, we have 47 games altogether, and there we have made a profit from side value. So what the simulation thinks is against the odds, the best pick, we made a profit of plus 1,153. And this is also if you put 100 as a stake to each and every game that we are predicting. So plus 1,153 side value. And then in money line, which is only the winner of the game, so who gets more than 50%, is plus 879 from the last week. And in totals, we are a little bit behind the similar amount. Actually, the games that we picked are a little bit less. Let me just give a quick look. We have about 40 picks in here, and it's minus 691 if you take into consideration the odds of those totals. So overall, plus 1,200 from all of these 3 categories, and if you leave out the totals, it would be a lot more, plus 2,000, a little bit more. So very good predictions so far, and let's keep this going. And these overall total numbers will improve as well, and overall in the season we are still in the plus, so no problem there either.
Sounds very good. Here we can see that machine is well greased and runs pretty smoothly by predicting these correct winners. Accuracy is pretty much there what we have been looking for. It's quite not so relevant or not so easy to say that, hey, we can predict every game, because we can't. And it's always good that in this side value and money line bets, you, depending on a little bit, of course, the odds, but if you can make money, that's the best accuracy benchmark for the predictions.
Yeah, when we're approaching a little bit bigger take here, so now we have a little bit more than almost 300 games picked. This starts to be somehow relevant already, that this sort of a variation is a little bit less. If you have 100 games, it can still be a one day off, and it will skew the numbers a lot. But when we're approaching 300, 400 picks, it'll start to show that the system is actually working, and it will accumulate nice winnings towards the end of the season.
Let's continue then to tonight's game. We have naturally make a few picks here. Rangers goes to Philadelphia. Both teams have a little bit problems with their lineup, but Philadelphia has much more. So Rangers is favorite in our simulations from the bookmakers. They are small underdog, but with 120 plus odds, there is good value in this game. And then Eastern Conference top teams, Carolina continues their trip or their matches in against Tampa Bay, now in Tampa Bay, and home team is favorite both by the bookmakers and by the simulations, but there is clear value with minus 125 odds for Tampa. That won last game between these two teams. Do you agree with these picks?
Yeah, I do. And this is a very interesting game in Philadelphia between the Flyers and the Rangers, not only because of the rivalry that these teams are developing now, but also because there is a lot of players missing from both teams. So Rangers, notably, Artemi Panarin is gone. Kaapo Kakko is gone, and Philip Chitil is still out. So a couple of offensive weapons are missing from their team. Of course, they let go of Tony DeAngelo earlier already. Jakob Trouba from the defense off as well. So a lot of changes in Rangers lineup, but it's a young team that probably will take this as an opportunity, and this is something that at least I'm hoping for, that the coach Quinn will now realize that he needs to put his faith in the young guys and play more of Lafreniere, play more of Blackwell and these guys that are bringing the energy and are able to also score goals. So last time around, Rangers did really well against Capitals, and also beat Rangers, also beat Flyers in the shootout the last time these teams met in Philadelphia. So I think things are going for the Rangers now. Let's hope that the absence of Panarin and Kakko doesn't cause any problems for them. And then Philadelphia, coming from this kind of humiliating result at Lake Tahoe against Boston, not an easiest game for them. They had 6 players gone from the regular lineup. Likely that they are gone today as well. So Travis Konechny, Scott Lofton, Jakub Voracek, Claude Giroux, Justin Brown, to name only a couple. There is still more players missing. So similar situation to Rangers, but even worse. And there is not as many players ready to step up in this Flyers team. So they will have a hard time containing the energetic Rangers. I think with these odds, Rangers is a surefire bet. It will be a lot closer game than the odds makers have indicated here. So we do have Philadelphia for 54. We have Rangers for 54% winning the game, while the odds were around 130. So great value there for the visitors.
And then, sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good. There are also a few other interesting games in tonight's schedule. Do you think there would be any value to bet, for example, some of these home favorites like Florida plays against Dallas? They won the last one. Then Toronto tries to bounce back from the 3-0 loss against Calgary. They are also favorites at home. And then Arizona continues their series against Anaheim that they won 4-3 in previous game.
Yeah, there is a small value for these home teams as well, but nothing really exciting at the moment. The odds are quite well in balance with our simulations. So last time around, Dallas was of course a bit disappointing against Florida. We bet over in that game, but Dallas scored only 1 goal. Florida took a sort of routine win without showing a lot of offensive performance there. We have Florida winning for 59%. While the odds are around 54%, so a couple of percent there. Similar situation in Toronto against Calgary, a couple of percent for the home team, but nothing remarkable. And also the odds of somewhere around minus 140, 150 are not very attractive for us.
Yeah. Sometimes these home teams that are favorite, even though there's small value, they lose the game, and then it's difficult to collect those losses with small odds like we have right now here in these games, and also then in St. Louis, where St. Louis is hoping to bounce back after the lackluster performance against LA Kings in previous game.
Yeah, a lot of video there in St. Louis as well, because of their strengths have not shown in the last couple of games. So they're probably going to be a tough team to beat for Los Angeles Kings. Now, we do have value for them about 8%. So we have 70% for St. Louis in that one. So a really clear favorite. But the odds, again, like minus 180 or so. So again, very small value, but still, if you're in for the favorites, you can go for it.
How about then one of the interesting matchup in Honda West Division? Minnesota continues their road trip. Now the stop is in Denver, Colorado, and Colorado has played 4 games against Vegas. They split the series 2-2 since their 2 weeks break. At the same time, Minnesota has played 4 games after their 2 weeks break against San Jose, Anaheim, and LA. Won last 3 of those with quite convincing way. 2-6 against San Jose and 5-1 against Anaheim. Naturally, Colorado is a bit different team to these other Californian teams, but do you think there's a chance to upset by Minnesota?
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup, and also like a really huge test for the Minnesota Wild, who, like you said, were dominant against these California teams, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot. Now they're facing Colorado Avalanche, who are probably quite angry after losing to Vegas at home 0-3 in the last game. So Colorado will be coming full on to this game. Last time these teams met in Colorado was 3 weeks ago, and then Colorado took a narrow 2-1 victory. So that was a close game as well. Now we'll see how Minnesota will do. We do have in simulations tiny bit of value for the visitors. The simulations show 39% for Minnesota, while the odds indicate around 38.6%. So it's a tiny value, but there it is. So away underdog might be the go for in this case.
Yeah, and I think it's good to know that the heavy offense of Colorado hasn't been there in last, let's say, 5 games, at least in a amount of goals that they have scored. They have scored only 8 goals in last 5 games, and for a team that usually does quite a bit more, this is quite low number on average.
Yeah, really tough games, of course. With Colorado played Vegas a couple of times, and very defensive battles in a way. It's a good situation for Colorado, though, because they have now proven that they are able to shut down their opponents. They are able to play defense, but now they need to get their offense going like it was early in the season, and they really do need to start scoring goals in order to win these games.
Let's see how the top line of Colorado, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen will perform tonight, and also check, of course, all the other games. We'll be back tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.